You're the family shame, she whispered, on her wedding day with the mic still live. I stood frozen, the words slapping harder than any hand ever could. I'd spent years being the quiet one, the helper, the shadow behind her spotlight. But that moment, it shattered something in me. The crowd laughed nervously, pretending it was a joke, but it wasn't. I saw it in her eyes. Something darker was at play, something personal. She thought I'd stay silent, that I'd disappear like always, but this time I wouldn't walk away. This time I'd uncover every secret she thought she'd buried. I grew up in what outsiders would call the perfect American family. A father who commanded respect without ever raising his voice, a mother who kept the home warm and steady, and two daughters who, at least on social media, looked inseparable. That was the image, the facade carefully arranged like a family portrait that never aged. People saw us and envied us. They thought Bella and I were living proof of harmony, of loyalty, of sisterhood, but what they saw was a filter, smooth, glossy, curated. Behind it was a silence that cut sharper than words. Bella was always the jewel. At 38, she was a beauty influencer with 1 million followers, brand deals, and the kind of charisma that filled a room the moment she walked in. Our parents treated her like a miracle, the proof of their good parenting. She was their pride, their front-page headline. And me? At 34, I was the afterthought, the one who tried, who helped, who faded into the background. So, Jennifer is quiet, people would say, but sweet. Quiet became my identity, as if silence was all I had to offer. Still, Bella made sure the world saw us as sisters bonded for life. On Instagram, she tagged me in posts, my ride or die, my forever bestie. The comments always flooded in. You two are so lucky. I wish I had a sister like that. I would smile politely, knowing that outside the screen, Bella rarely looked me in the eye. She hugged me only when cameras were rolling. She laughed with me only when it could be clipped into a viral reel. And somehow, even when I knew it was all for show, I played along, because if I didn't, I was afraid of what she'd do. The first crack in the golden cage came quietly. Bella posted a story one night. A photo of us together at a family dinner, her glowing in a designer dress, me in something simple I'd worn before. The caption read, "To the most loyal nobody I know." At first glance, it could have been affectionate, playful, a sister teasing another. But the more I looked, the more it felt like a blade slipped between my ribs. Loyal nobody. Was I supposed to laugh? My hands trembled as I read comments. So cute. Sisters banter. Only I knew the weight behind those words. It wasn't a compliment. It was a declaration. She was everything. I was nothing. I tried to brush it aside, but the unease lingered, humming in my chest like a warning siren I couldn't switch off. It followed me into the days leading up to her wedding, into every gathering where the spotlight was hers, and mine was just the glow of a borrowed light. The day of her dress fitting, the room was buzzing with excitement. Silk and lace spilled across the floor, champagne glasses clinked, and Bella basked in the glow of attendants and stylists fussing over her every move. I stood in the corner, holding a veil, invisible as always. Then she turned to me, her smile sweet enough to rot teeth, and said, "I hope you find someone patient enough to handle your past." The room erupted in polite laughter, the kind reserved for jokes everyone pretends to understand. But I felt my stomach drop. My past. What past was she alluding to? I forced a smile, though my insides churned. My eyes darted around the room, searching for anyone who might question her words, but everyone was too busy laughing, too busy drinking in her charm. It didn't stop there. At the rehearsal dinner, surrounded by extended family, Bella lifted her glass in a mock toast. To my sister, who's taught me so much about resilience. After all, not everyone could survive what she's been through. A murmur went around the table, curious eyes turning to me. My heart pounded as she continued, her voice dipped in false innocence. I mean, it takes strength to move on from losing a baby, doesn't it, Jennifer? The words hit me like a slap. The table froze, forks mid-air. My throat tightened, the room spinning as whispers began to coil like snakes. That was mine. That was private. The pregnancy I had lost years ago, a grief I had buried deep in silence, now thrown into the light as dinner entertainment. I saw my mother's eyes drop, my father's jaw stiffen, but no one spoke. Not one person told her to stop. I excused myself, stumbling into the bathroom, clutching the sink to keep from collapsing. My reflection stared back, ashen, broken, betrayed. For years, I had been the keeper of family harmony, the one who never raised her voice. And here I was, gutted open by the one person who knew my weakest places. I confronted Bella later, when guests had gone and only the faint hum of cleaning staff remained. She was slipping off her heels, scrolling her phone, not even looking up when I asked, "Why would you say that? Why would you humiliate me like that?" She finally glanced at me, her smile sharp as glass. "Oh, come on. You think people don't already know? I just said what everyone whispers behind your back. Maybe it's better this way. Honesty, right?" My voice shook. "That wasn't your story to tell." Her laugh was cold, echoing in the empty hall. "You think you get to choose. You've lived in my shadow your whole life. You should be grateful I even mentioned you at all." The words sliced through me, leaving nothing but silence in their wake. For the first time, I realized Bella wasn't just careless. She was calculated, and if she was willing to expose that secret, what else was she ready to use against me? That night, as I lay awake staring at the ceiling, one thought burned into my mind, searing itself into my bones. If she could make me the family shame once, she could do it again. And next time, she wouldn't just hint, she'd destroy me completely. The days after the rehearsal dinner blurred into something I could only describe as exile. Family members who once smiled at me now looked past me as though I wasn't there. Conversations fell quiet the moment I entered a room, and laughter resumed once I left. My mother refused to meet my eyes. My aunts, who used to call me to help with errands, now found excuses not to involve me. It was as if Bella's performance had rewritten history, branding me with invisible ink that everyone else could suddenly read. "She's always been jealous," I overheard one cousin whisper. "You can see it in her eyes." Another relative chimed in. "It must be exhausting for Bella, carrying the whole family's reputation while Jennifer keeps dragging her down." Every word sank like stones into my chest. I wanted to shout, to remind them I'd spent years helping Bella, covering her lies, holding her secrets. But shouting wasn't who I was, and maybe that was the problem. Then came the podcast. I hadn't known about it at first. A client canceled a contract with me, citing reputation concerns. Confused, I searched my name online and found threads linking me to a new podcast episode, recorded by an anonymous insider. The voice was distorted, but the story was clear. A jealous younger sister who had sabotaged her older sister's first engagement by seducing the fiancé. It was a lie so outrageous I almost laughed, until I realized people were believing it. Listeners dissected every detail, convincing themselves it was real. They pointed to Bella's smiling perfection and contrasted it with my quiet, forgettable presence. "Classic jealous sister," one commenter wrote. "She probably couldn't stand living in her shadow." My inbox filled with hate. "Homewrecker. No wonder your parents love Bella more. Shame." Within a week, I lost 3 contracts. My professional credibility, built quietly and carefully over years, unraveled like a cheap sweater. I dug into the podcast's details, desperate for proof. The host was listed as EM, with a business email that led nowhere. But when I traced the registration, the domain was linked to a marketing agency Bella often used. And the name on the payment? Her personal assistant. I confronted Bella the next day, my voice trembling with fury. "What did you say on that podcast?" She didn't even look up from her phone. "The truth hurts, doesn't it?" I slammed my hand against the counter. "That wasn't the truth. You're destroying me, Bella." She finally met my eyes, her smile sharp and unyielding. "I didn't destroy anything. You did that all on your own. I just gave people the story they were waiting for." Her words lodged in me like barbed wire, tearing deeper every time I tried to breathe. Later that week, I visited my parents, hoping to find some shred of comfort. Instead, my mother unleashed a storm. "Why can't you be more like your sister? Do you see how she carries herself? No drama, no shame, just dignity. You bring this on yourself, Jennifer." Her words gutted me. "Mom, do you even hear what you're saying? She exposed me. She's lying about me." But my mother's eyes hardened. "Stop blaming her. Learn from her. That's why your father favors her. She knows how to behave." I swallowed the lump in my throat, stunned into silence. My father, who usually intervened, sat quietly in his armchair, eyes down, lips pressed shut. His silence was louder than any accusation. Days later, I called him late at night, desperate for reassurance. I expected his steady voice, his calm reason. Instead, I heard something that chilled me. He didn't realize I'd picked up. I heard him speaking to someone else. "I can't let her find out," he whispered. "It would destroy everything." I froze, my grip tightening around the phone. Who was he talking about? And what was this secret that couldn't be revealed? The call ended abruptly when he noticed I was on the line. He cleared his throat and spoke too casually. "Jennifer, everything's fine. Don't worry yourself." But I couldn't shake the unease. His silence at dinner, his hesitation, the whispered words, they gnawed at me. The following evening, as I sat staring blankly at my computer, an email notification popped up. The sender was anonymous. The subject line, "Truth." The message was brief, no signature, no flourish. "If you want answers, meet me tomorrow at 8 p.m. You deserve to know what your family is hiding." My heart pounded as I read it over and over. A trap? A cruel prank? Or was this the thread that would finally unravel the lies? I didn't know. But for the first time in weeks, I felt something spark inside me. Not despair, not resignation, but the dangerous flicker of possibility. The wedding was everything Bella had promised it would be. Chandeliers glittering like captured stars, white roses draped across the hall, and a string quartet filling the air with music so delicate it could have been spun from glass. Cameras lined the aisles, and drones hovered overhead, capturing every polished angle for her millions of followers. To the outside world, it was a fairy tale. To me, it was a stage, and I was the prop no one wanted, the reminder that perfection had a price. I sat near the front, my dress understated, chosen to avoid attention. I watched as Bella glided down the aisle, every step a performance. Her smile so radiant it seemed rehearsed. My parents glowed with pride, their faces reflecting the applause of strangers. I tried to disappear into my seat, to shrink small enough that no lens could capture me. The ceremony blurred. Vows, kisses, applause. My stomach churned, waiting for the inevitable moment when Bella would turn her spotlight on me. I prayed it wouldn't come, but it did. During the reception, as glasses clinked and laughter swelled, Bella took the microphone for her speech. Her voice was syrupy sweet, her eyes glistening with rehearsed tears. She thanked her new husband, her parents, her friends. And then, as though remembering, she turned toward me. "Of course," she said, her tone lilting with false warmth. "Every family has one person who reminds us what we never want to become." A ripple of unease went through the crowd. She smiled wider, leaning into the mic. "Thank you, Jennifer, for always pushing me to be better. Without you, I might have settled. Without you, I might not know what shame really looks like." The words hung in the air like smoke. Silence followed, thick, suffocating. I felt every eye turn toward me, some pitying, others amused, a few disgusted. My breath caught in my throat. My hands shook under the table. Then the sound of nervous laughter trickled through the hall. People chuckled, unsure if it was a joke, glancing at Bella for permission to laugh louder. She gave a playful smirk, as if she'd just teased me affectionately. But I saw it in her eyes. She meant every word. Phones were already out. Within minutes, the clip was posted online. Hashtags exploded. "Sow family shame." "Our sisters at war." "My humiliation." Broadcast to the world in real time. I wanted to run, to vanish, but before I could move, something unexpected happened. My father stood. For a heartbeat, I thought he would speak, defend me, break the spell Bella had cast. My chest rose with fragile hope, but he said nothing. He only crossed the room, reached for my hand, and gently pulled me up. The crowd parted in silence as he led me out of the hall. The music faltered, the cameras followed, and then, just like that, we were gone. The headlines wrote themselves within hours. Bride shames sister in viral speech. Silent sister storms out of wedding. Comment sections lit up with venom. She ruined Bella's big day. Jealousy is ugly. Didn't she sleep with Bella's ex? Total drama queen. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't eat. My phone became a weapon turned against me. The lies multiplied, drowning me in a storm I couldn't control. Within 2 days, I collapsed, chest tight, vision spinning. When I woke, I was in a hospital bed, monitors beeping steadily at my side. For the first time, I wanted to disappear completely, to stop fighting, to stop being the family shame. Then, on my bedside table, I noticed an envelope, plain, unmarked. Inside was a message, typed and unsigned. I know what she did to me. She did it to others, too. If you want proof, call me. I dialed the number trembling, half afraid of what I'd hear. A man's voice answered, low and strained. She ruined me, he said. Years ago, when I wouldn't play along with her game. She accused me publicly, said I harassed her. I lost everything, my job, my reputation, all for her to climb higher. And now she's doing it to you. I gripped the phone tighter. Are you saying Bella fabricated the entire $Me Too story? Yes, he said bitterly, and I can prove it. My pulse raced. The ground shifted under me, a new kind of horror taking root. If this was true, Bella wasn't just cruel, she was dangerous, weaponizing movements meant to protect the vulnerable. I pressed my forehead to the cold hospital wall, bile rising in my throat. The sister I had spent a lifetime protecting, excusing, following, she had built her empire on lies. That night, as I lay in the sterile room, staring at the ceiling tiles, the door creaked open. My father stepped inside, his face shadowed by fatigue. He looked at me for a long time, longer than he ever had before, and then he spoke softly, gravely. It's time you knew the truth, Jennifer. About her, about us, about everything. My father's voice trembled as he sat by my hospital bed. He looked older than I had ever seen him, the weight of decades pressing down on his shoulders. Jennifer, he said, Bella isn't my daughter. You are my only child. The words lodged in my chest like a blade. I stared at him, waiting for a laugh, a correction, something to undo what he had just said. But his eyes were steady, filled with a sadness that came from too many years of silence. Your mother lied, he continued. She had Bella before we married. I raised her as my own, but the truth was always there between us, and Bella knew. She's known for years. Pieces began falling into place with brutal clarity. Bella's obsession with being the favorite, her endless cruelty, her hunger to make me small. She had been terrified all along of being unmasked, of losing the crown she clutched so tightly. She fears you, my father whispered. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because you are the one thing she can never be. Authentic. Real. She learned to perform. You never did. For the first time in weeks, maybe in years, something cracked open in me. It wasn't despair. It wasn't defeat. It was anger, pure and electric, coursing through my veins like fire. All this time, I thought I was weak, invisible, useless. But I wasn't. I was simply living truthfully in a house built on lies. I laughed, a low, unfamiliar sound that startled even me. My father frowned. Jennifer. I won't take revenge, I said, my voice steady, sharp. But I will expose her. I'll show everyone who she really is. The smile that spread across my face felt dangerous, liberating. For the first time, I wasn't the shadow. I was the spark. From that moment, I began to plan. I called a lawyer, one known for handling cases of defamation and digital abuse. I handed over the anonymous emails, the recordings of Bella's podcast, every scrap of evidence I had. The lawyer's eyes widened as she scrolled through the files. "She's left a trail," she said. "She thought she was untouchable, but she was sloppy. This could destroy her." I reached out to a journalist, a woman who had built her reputation uncovering false accusations and exposing media manipulation. She listened quietly as I explained, her pen moving quickly across her notebook. "You're not the first," she said softly. "She's done this before." The journalist connected me to others, people Bella had chewed up and discarded on her climb to fame. One had been a fellow influencer whose career Bella sabotaged with fabricated screenshots. Another was a former assistant who'd been forced to sign an NDA after Bella threatened to release intimate photos if she ever spoke out. Each story added weight to the file I was building, a dossier of truth that would be impossible to ignore. Then came the video, a shaky recording from Bella's own assistant, captured on a phone she thought was off. In it, Bella barked orders to fabricate evidence, to edit voice memos, to leak rumors under fake accounts. At one point, she sneered, "People believe what I tell them. That's power, and no one, not even Jennifer, will take it from me." I saved the file, my hands trembling with adrenaline. But the most damning piece came unexpectedly. One of the major sponsors of Bella's wedding contacted me through the journalist. He was a quiet man, polite but stern. And when he introduced himself, my blood ran cold. He was the father of the man Bella had accused in her Dulcich Me Too scandal years earlier. "She destroyed my son," he said, his voice low with grief. "We lost everything. I agreed to fund her wedding not out of joy, but to watch her undo herself. I have documents, proof she blackmailed witnesses, falsified accounts. If you are ready to fight, I will help you." By then, the dossier was thick with evidence, screenshots, recordings, testimonies. It was no longer just my story. It was the story of everyone Bella had crushed under her heels. I crafted my next move carefully, a press conference. No rage-filled rants, no frantic denials, just truth, laid bare under the lights. The invitation was short, deliberate. Press conference, the truth behind the $1 million wedding dress. I sent it to every major outlet, every journalist who had ever written about Bella's rise. Within hours, RSVPs flooded in. Reporters were hungry. The story was bigger than family drama. It was about the false idols people worshipped, the lies that fueled fame. The night before the conference, I stood in front of the mirror staring at my reflection. For years, I had avoided my own gaze, ashamed of the woman I thought I was. But now, I saw someone new, someone who had been broken and rebuilt in fire. I touched the glass and whispered to myself, "No more silence." And for the first time, I believed it. The press conference drew more cameras than I had imagined. Journalists packed the room, microphones bristling like weapons ready to capture every word. The air buzzed with anticipation, a collective hunger for scandal. I stood at the podium, heart pounding but voice steady. I didn't scream. I didn't plead. I simply laid out the truth. I played the recordings of Bella instructing her assistant to create fake evidence. I read out testimonies from people she had destroyed. I projected screenshots onto the screen behind me, proof of her manipulation, her calculated cruelty. Each revelation dropped like a stone into still water, sending ripples through the crowd. Gasps filled the room, followed by furious scribbles of pens and the clicking of cameras. By the time I finished, the headlines were already being written. Within hours, Bella's empire cracked. Sponsors pulled contracts, followers unfollowed in droves. Hashtags flooded Twitter. "John, shame on Bella." "Liar unmasked." "The family truth." The story dominated the evening news. Anchors replayed the wedding clip side by side with the evidence I had unveiled. Commentators debated how one woman had fooled millions with her perfect image. And then, the moment I didn't expect, my father went live. In a video streamed to thousands, he sat in our family's living room, his face lined with sorrow. "The person truly shameful," he said, "is the one who was never honest with this family, who used us as props in her performance, not my daughter Jennifer." Not the one who stayed silent all these years, but the one who lived in lies. The clip spread as fast as Bella's wedding humiliation had. For the first time, people saw him take a side, my side. But even as Bella's world collapsed, she remained silent. Her accounts went dark. No posts, no stories, no explanations. The absence only fueled speculation. Where was she? What would she say? Then, one night, a new clip surfaced. Not from me, not from a journalist, but from someone who had clearly waited for this moment. The footage was raw, unedited, captured years ago on a phone. Bella was in a dimly lit apartment, her voice sharp, her face contorted in anger. She was yelling at a young man, her ex-boyfriend. "You're not leaving me. If you walk away, I'll make sure no one ever hires you again. Don't forget what you owe me. And if you don't do what I say, I'll tell everyone you forced me to abort." The man's voice trembled in reply. "Bella, that's not true. You wanted this. You made the choice. Don't twist it." Her laugh was cruel. "No one will believe you. They believe me." The video ended abruptly, but the damage was irreversible. Bella wasn't just manipulative. She had weaponized her own secrets, turning her choices into lies she wielded against others. The internet erupted. So she was the one? She destroyed him to save herself. Monster. Our family fractured overnight. My mother, the woman who had raised Bella as her jewel, collapsed under the weight of disgrace. She stopped leaving her room, her face hollow, her voice barely audible. Relatives stopped calling. Neighbors whispered. The proud facade of our family shattered like glass underfoot. I didn't celebrate. I didn't dance on Bella's ruins. Instead, I opened my laptop and wrote. My family taught me one lesson. Blood doesn't always equal loyalty. Sometimes family is the very thing that tries to silence you. But silence is a choice, and I am done choosing it. Family is not who shares your name. Family is who respects your truth. I published the post quietly, without announcement. But within hours, it spread like wildfire, quoted in articles, shared across social media. People called it a manifesto, a declaration for anyone trapped in toxic families. For the first time, I didn't feel invisible. My words carried weight not because they were shouted, but because they were true. And then, as I scrolled through my inbox late that night, I found it. An email from a major publishing house. "We read your blog," it began. "We believe your story is not just personal, it's universal. We would like to offer you a book deal. We want to publish your truth." I leaned back in my chair, staring at the screen. For years, Bella had tried to bury me under her lies, to make me vanish. But here it was, proof that the truth, once spoken, could rise higher than any illusion. The book launched 6 months after the press conference. I hadn't written it to destroy Bella, nor to relive my pain in public. I wrote it to give voice to those who, like me, had been told to stay quiet. The price of silence hit shelves in spring, and to my astonishment, it soared. Reviewers called it raw, necessary, healing. Readers wrote to me, sharing their own stories of family betrayal, manipulation, and the suffocating expectation of loyalty to those who never deserved it. I was no longer just Jennifer, the invisible sister. I became something bigger, a symbol for those who had lived in the shadows of golden cages, told that their pain was less important than appearances. With the royalties, I started a foundation for women facing psychological abuse inside their own families. Not every wound was visible, not every scar left on skin. Some wounds lived in whispers, in slammed doors, in dinner table silences. I wanted to give survivors a place to be heard, to be seen. Ironically, my book didn't mention Bella's name. I didn't need to. She was the ghost between the lines, the absence people could feel without me spelling it out. Readers understood. They knew. And that silence spoke louder than any accusation. The book climbed bestseller lists, translated into several languages. I traveled, gave talks, stood on stages where once I would have sat quietly in the back. And yet, for all the noise, I found myself seeking quiet again. Not the forced silence of shame, but the peace of choice. Then one morning, an envelope arrived at my door. handwritten, my name curling across the front in a script I hadn't seen in months. My stomach twisted as I tore it open. It was from Bella. "Jennifer," it began, "I don't know where to start. Maybe there is no right place. I've lived my entire life as someone else's dream, someone else's lie. I was built on deception, and I built more lies on top of it. I wanted to be loved, but I never knew how. You've always been stronger than me. Not because you fought louder, but because you never stopped being yourself. You won, not with weapons, but with truth. Not with cruelty, but with kindness. I don't know if I can ever undo the damage. I don't even know if I want to. But I know one thing. I was never the sister you needed, and you were always the sister I couldn't be." Her handwriting trailed off, jagged, as though written in haste or grief. The final line cut me deepest of all. "You were never the family shame. I was." I sat with the letter for a long time, my hands trembling. For the first time, Bella's mask had cracked. Not for cameras, not for applause, but on paper meant only for me. And then, slowly, I smiled. I walked to the fireplace, struck a match, and fed the letter to the flames. I didn't need her confession. I didn't need her apology. I had already freed myself. The fire curled around the paper, devouring every word until nothing remained but ash. In that moment, I felt lighter. Life moved forward in ways I never expected. I bought a modest house near the coast where the ocean reminded me daily of resilience, waves breaking endlessly against the shore, no matter how many times they were pulled back. My father retired and moved nearby. He visited often, bringing groceries, fixing things around the house, sitting with me in quiet companionship. For the first time, he was simply my father, not a man guarding secrets. I built a new kind of family, not of blood, but of choice. Friends who respected me, colleagues who believed in me, women from the foundation who became sisters in truth rather than rivals in lies. Months later, during a televised interview, the host leaned forward, curiosity in her eyes. "If you could go back," she asked, "and stop that wedding speech from ever happening, would you?" The studio fell silent, waiting. I took a breath, remembering the sting of humiliation, the crushing weight of silence, the collapse that nearly ended me. And then I remembered the fire, the laughter that was finally mine, the truth that had risen from ruin. I smiled. "No," I said simply. That moment broke me, but it also made me. The audience erupted in applause, but I barely heard it. My voice wasn't for them anymore. It was for me. For the girl who had once thought she was invisible. For the woman who finally realized she was never the shame, she was the truth, and no one could take that away again.